1059 The Region, in partnership with RE/MAX Prime Properties, present On the Market, real estate advice that works for you. Have a real estate question? Call us at 416-335-1059. Tweet us at 1059 The Region or email us at info@1059theregion.com.
This is 1059 The Region. I'm Tina Cortez with On the Market, York Region's only radio real estate show. My co-host and our real estate expert is Asif Khan with RE/MAX Prime Properties. Good morning, Asif.
Good morning, Tina.
Now, last week we kicked off our check on the real estate markets from Victoria to Toronto. Today, we pick it up from there, Asif.
That's right, Tina. We begin today in La Belle Province and Montreal. George Bardaji from RE/MAX du Quartier, GB, joins us. George, welcome to our show.
Hi, Tina. Hi, Asif. How are you?
Great. How are you?
Excellent. Are you guys ready from some bad English but good real estate stats for Montreal?
We're ready. Let's go. So tell us about 2021 in Montreal, George. I heard it was on fire in Montreal.
It was on fire. You're right, completely. The market, like 50% of the sales, multiple offers, which was kind of happening already in Montreal for the past 10 years, but was kind of new for the suburbs and most for, cities outside the suburbs of Montreal, so in the regions. Obviously, the working from home thing, which is very strong here, probably like the same thing as Toronto, has a great impact. So now we feel a lot of the young crowd buyers are moving away from the city. So this is kind of new for them. And there was a lot of supply in 2020. Now those supply are now empty. So now they're in the same situation that we were in Montreal a few years back, where we're really in a seller's market, anywhere between 2 to 4 months supply at the most right now in most markets. Montreal is about 2 months supply. The number of sales for 2021 was not the record. It was 109,000 sales in Quebec, down 3% from 2020.
Now, what can you tell us in terms of average price there in Montreal, George?
Yeah, so the average price, Montreal is a big island, so obviously if anybody from Toronto knows the market in Montreal, the central of the island is obviously more expensive, more luxurious market, but the average price for Montreal for a home is getting like 493,000, like a little bit under 500,000 for a single family home. For Quebec, it's 363,000, just to give you an example for the whole province of Quebec.
And what about the condo market, like right downtown? I know my daughter was renting a condo on Union, one of the new buildings there, and they seem to be, very competitive with Toronto pricing for small one-bedroom condos.
Well, what's happening is it's a good question, Asif. As far as the Montreal downtown, like pretty much all of the North American downtowns were really in a tough situation. In 2020, most downtowns were deserted. Nobody in the office building, no shows, no restaurants. So a lot of people left the downtown, and it started to pick up in February of 2021 when sales starts to happen again. And right now we're in a seller's market because the number of construction sites slowed down a great deal. And so it's getting more balance between offer and demand. So downtown, you're looking for a new luxury building, like the most expensive you'll find are around $1,500 to $2,000 a square foot. That's like the top 10 most luxurious building in Montreal. The average price downtown is closer to $850 per square foot for a new condo, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom.
And I remember last year that Asif spoke about the rental market here in Toronto and the GTA and how there were bidding wars even for that area of the market. Do you find that in Montreal as well, that there are bidding wars for rentals?
Yeah, there's actually a rental market for people who have a lease. So the law in Quebec for the rental board is that somebody who rents can maintain occupancy for life unless the owner takes possession for themselves, for one of their children or one of their parents only. That's the only exception. He can take over an apartment. So what's happening is, because there's a shortage of, good rentals, the people who actually own a lease will go and sell their lease to somebody else. And unless, they don't have the financial number, the owner cannot refuse the transfer of the lease. So there's kind of a market, like an exchange market for affordable leases in Montreal.
Wow, that's interesting. And so many different rules and laws around rentals as well. But George, heading into 2022, how do you see the Montreal market shaping up?
Well, it's for the first 6 months of the year, we're going to have pretty much of the same of 2021, except the prices will stop going up as much as they did, because when, like me, if the prices go up too fast, eventually it's like a rubber elastic, it's going to break. And I feel that the luxury market was somehow there in the past 3 months of the November, October, November, December. We could see the price in the high end level out a little bit. So people who are actually too greedy are now not getting any traction or any offers on their listing. That's for the high end. Before it goes down to all the categories of prices. So the single family home is probably like GTA. It's 2/3 of our sales here in Quebec, and there's a big shortage of them. Condos a little bit more balanced. So I feel the first 6 months are going to be really busy, still, in the average price point, multiple offers, good market. As the interest rate will go up maybe once or twice between now and June. Everything is going to quiet down a little bit, I feel. So the forecast is for increase in prices, very moderate, around 1 to 3% of the prices, and the number of transactions will be down 12% for 2022.
So you're going to hit about 100,000 transactions, or just under. That's
just about that.
Good. Yeah.
It's still very good compared to a normal year, but still, like anywhere in Canada, Montreal. First of all, Montreal, the economy is booming. The unemployment rate is down, like pretty much the shortage of people everywhere. So the economy is thriving. In Quebec, it's very diversified. So we feel that we're in good position economy-wise. We will need more immigration, and that was, kind of slow for the past, 3 years. But everything else is good. The only thing we don't know is the effect on the interest rate. Obviously, if you bring the rate up, prices will start, stabilizing.
That's right. And for our listeners, George, if they want to connect with you and find out about rental properties or properties for sale in Montreal or surrounding areas, how can they get a hold of you?
Well, first they can visit our website, which is bardagi.com, BARDAGI.com, or phone our office number at 514-271-9895. We're on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. We're the number one RE/MAX team in Quebec for the past 17 years straight. So we have a good track record and a team of 40 here working in Montreal in the center of the island.
And to vouch for that, whoever wants to deal with George out in Montreal, you're going to be in great hands.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. But I got great relationship with agents in Toronto. I think that what you guys are going through the years, I learn a lot from. And so I feel that a lot of things that are happening in Toronto a couple of years later end up happening in Montreal. So thank you for that. But the good news is, in Montreal, a young couple needs to save money for about 10 years before they can buy a property and gather the cash down. In Toronto, I think it's around 14 years, and Vancouver, like 20-something years. So, I mean, there's still good purchases to be made in Montreal, and also in different cities in Quebec are actually booming because they're more affordable.
That's great information, George. Thank you so much, and we look forward to having you on in the future and getting an update.
Happy New Year to all. Thank you, Tina. Thank you, Asif.
Merci beaucoup, George. After the break, the East Coast On the Market checkup. This is On the Market on 105.9 The Region. Stay with us.
Need to connect with Asif Khan from Remax Prime Properties? Call him 416-985-KHAN. That's 416-985-5426. Or email asif@thehomeshop.ca. Now, back to On the Market on 105.9 The Region.
Welcome back to On the Market, York Region's exclusive radio real estate show on 105.9 The Region. Over to Asif Khan from Remax Prime Properties as we move to the East Coast and our check on the markets there. Asif.
We're going to New Brunswick, and we've got Jason Munn with us, and Jason is broker-owner of Remax East Coast Elite Realty. Jason, welcome back.
Thank you, Asif. Nice to be here, and always a pleasure.
Jason, we've been going across the country and hearing from different areas about what's been happening and what's happened in 2021. Give us a little bit of take on what happened in 2021 there.
Well, 2021 here, when COVID came about in March, we thought we were going to be out of jobs, I think. And, very quickly in April, things here exploded. Things were happening that we didn't even believe possible. It was, things were busy, prices were going up, people were frantically trying to buy property. I don't know if they were a little bit cooped up in what they were isolated in for 4 weeks or what the deal was, but we've had a real increase in our property values here on the East Coast, and I think we've always been a beautiful place to be, but not a whole lot of people really focused on what we had to offer or our prices until COVID hit, and people from the West decided to come east to buy property. So I think we were well undervalued for about 12 to 15 years, and the pandemic kind of put a spotlight on us, if anything, to show how cheap we really were, and that's what caused the influx of people and the price increase.
So let's talk about average price there. What can you tell us?
Average price here is still good. When I say our price has soared, the average home price in Fredericton, New Brunswick, currently is about $240,000, which is still very inexpensive to the rest of Canada. But our values in the past year and a half have probably increased over 30%.
Wow, that's amazing. And even at that, what were your sales numbers like? Did you have a lot of concerns with inventory, or were you able to meet the demand that was out there?
No, I mean, that's part of our issue is we have a real shortage of inventory for realtors. It's really the time to list to exist. And, listings, they don't last. They're being sold to multiple offers. So we're seeing bidding on them. Offers being held for 3 days and a lot of multiple offers. So it's a market that we're really not used to, and we've actually adopted a fancy new escalation clause that's apparently stemmed from you guys in Ontario that nobody really seen here before either. So we're seeing a lot of offers with that. Really taking properties over market value. But some of the stuff, probably the same in Ontario, but some of the stuff that we see is just mind-boggling with what a sale price will go through at a home that's $200 and some $1,000 that sells for $400. And for us, that's like, whoa. It'd be like you guys having a house for $800 and selling it for $1.3 million, right?
And how do you see that all playing out for 2022? Like, do you see it continuing to be that hot? Do you see it settling a bit?
I still think New Brunswick is undervalued. I really do. So I think we're going to see an increase. I think we're going to see this for at least the next 2 years in New Brunswick because we still haven't caught up to market. And there's so many people that are west that are moving back home. I mean, these younger ladies and gentlemen that moved out west in 1978, go west and make your fortune, come back. A lot of those guys have accelerated that return, and we're seeing a real influx of people. And I think that's going to be a driving force here for the next probably 3 to 5 years.
And Jason, if people from our listenership want to contact you for more information and opportunities to move there, how can they do that?
Easy. They can call me at 506-260-2605, and my email address is just jasonmunn@remax.net, and more than happy to answer any questions. We've been dealing with a lot of folks from From Ontario, and it's great because of the strength of the REMAX network and the amount of agents we have across Canada. We've got a great referral network. So chances are, we find that these folks coming in are already dealing with a REMAX agent. So we got some great continuity from REMAX to REMAX. So it's been beneficial that way too.
That's awesome. Thanks so much for joining us, Jason.
You're welcome. You guys have a great day.
You too.
We're moving to PEI next, and Asif, over to you.
Thanks, Tina. We've got Mary Jane Webster, broker owner of REMAX Charlottetown. Mary Jane, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Mary Jane, there's a lot of talk about people moving over from Ontario and other provinces into the Maritimes. Tell us a little bit about 2021 and how the move over buyer helped in PEI to help with sales.
Yep. The number of sales between 2020 and 2021 stayed fairly consistent, but what we saw was an increase in price points. So if I look at the island as a whole, it was, in the 19 to 20% price increase year over year, which is unheard of for out here. We typically were living in the land of, 4 to 7% increase year over year was a good year. And then, the first real spike we saw was 2019 into 2020, and then we saw another one again, 2020 into 2021.
Wow, that's huge then, a 19% increase. So what is the average price that you're looking at where you are?
So if I look at the island as a whole, the average price on PEI is $320,000 for a single family home. And if we then narrow that into, kind of the greater Charlottetown area, so I include Cornwall, Charlottetown, Stratford in that. That's sort of like the more urban center. That price point jumps up a little bit to about $370,000, and just because of that population density.
And for our listeners out here, these are unreal price points because I don't think there's anything we can buy here under $400,000 or $500,000. But speaking to that, Mary Jane, what type of buyer is moving across from, say, an Ontario into PEI? Is it a younger demographic? Is it an older demographic? Who do you see that's moving over?
It's a lot of young, well, I shouldn't say young families, but families. So people with children that are still school-aged, and they're just choosing lifestyle. And, I mean, as you can imagine, if you sell a property in some of the larger centers, and you come here, you can get a pretty spectacular property for $500,000-$600,000. You're getting acreage, you're getting a huge, beautiful new home, and fairly good proximity to the ocean.
And did you also notice a lack of inventory there as well? Because that was the sentiment in pretty much almost every major market across the country.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're seeing the average days on market right now on the island as a whole was 25 days, but if you drill down into the greater Charlottetown area, that's shortened to about 15, and that's for all conditions to be removed. So, and again, what we saw started to happen this year more than ever was people, listing a property and saying, well, I'm holding all offers until this date. We had never experienced that before, so that's a pretty new phenomenon for us out here.
And do you see that continuing through 2022? Let's get the crystal ball out and get your predictions for what's going to happen in PEI for this year.
Yeah, I don't foresee a whole lot changing in that regard. It's supply and demand, and we have a lot of developing happening. We have lots of great construction happening, and communities are growing. We've really put ourselves on the map as a really great place to live and raise families, and we protect one another. And that's, I think, a lot of people in the world today are really able to buy into that idea and want a part of it.
That's awesome. And if people have questions about the PEI market, Mary Jane, how can they get a hold of you?
Well, they can certainly call the office, or our website is simply remaxcharlottetown.com.
Awesome. Thanks so much for joining us and for the great info.
Great. Thank you.
And our next stop takes us to Halifax. Asif.
And Tina, we're in Halifax with Ryan Hartland, broker owner of REMAX Nova. Ryan, welcome back.
Thanks for having me, Asif. Good to be here.
Ryan, it's a lot of talk about 2021 and how hot Nova Scotia was as a whole in terms of people moving from other provinces and just the sheer demand to be near the water. Tell us a little bit about 2021.
Yeah, I think for us it really continued from where it started in 2020 and even more so and probably accentuated a little bit by the pandemic. But demand for moving to Nova Scotia and Halifax in particular is very strong. We're seeing lots of people who, left the province over the past number of years to move to different parts of the country for employment and, for other various reasons. That, so those same people now that have ties to Nova Scotia, we're seeing a real big demand for them trying to come back. And also just new immigrants is a big segment of our market here as well, and so we're expecting a lot of new Canadians into Nova Scotia over the next year as well. And that was probably even stifled a little bit in 2021, but I expect that'll rebound even further in 2022 here, providing the pandemic doesn't hurt us too bad. So yeah, it's been quite a ride.
And is lack of inventory an issue in Halifax as it has been across the country?
Yeah, very much so. So to give you some perspective, I think back in 2016 in all of Nova Scotia, we probably had 10 or 11,000 active listings at any given time. And when we looked here in probably mid part of 2021, like we were down into the 1,500 active listings province wide. So you can really see how that trend has spiraled downwards over the last number of years. And so what that's done is it's created this real big demand for the few houses that are out there. And of course, prices have trended upwards pretty sharply over this last couple of years. But as we speak here, there's probably, 200 or 250 active residential listings in Halifax. And so that's really, really low inventory. Yeah.
So what about price points? I know I've had some conversations with some of your agents over the year, and they've been talking about people from other provinces coming in and dropping huge sums of money on properties there and raising the average price point. How much has that played a role, and what is the average price?
Yeah, so right now, average price in Halifax for sort of a single-family home is about $460,000, and that's up from about $370, this same time the previous year. So it's gone up quite dramatically. And we are seeing a fair amount of migratory buyers from different parts of Canada, buying here, which is great to see. It's we love the attention. But I think what we have noticed too is that learning curve for local buyers in comparison to some of the buyers coming from other markets that have been really hot for years. So people coming from Ontario are very accustomed to bidding wars and big price increases and ask offers that are well over ask and that sort of thing. And so what we saw was a bit of a learning curve for the local buyers here to really wrap their heads around. Hey, geez, yeah, you're competing with 20 other people, and the sale price is probably going to be 20% over asking or 15% over asking or something. So so I think some of the other people moving here from other areas were probably a bit more prepared for that. And so we definitely saw a little bit of it in the last year and a half.
And how do you see that playing into 2022? Do you see that continuing? Do you see a bit of a leveling off? Where do you see your market going for Halifax and surrounding?
Yeah, so I mean, personally, I can't see any real big indicators that inventory is going to be up. New construction is still not at the levels where it was years ago, and I just don't see any real big catalyst to draw more inventory into the market. So that matched with the demand that's out there that I think will continue from new Canadians moving here, and also the existing pent up sort of demand of people that haven't yet been successful at buying something. I think that basically yields a continuing trend of increasing prices and a seller's market. Maybe not quite at the intensity that it was, this past year, but I do think it'll continue in that same sort of direction.
And for our listeners thinking of making the move to Nova Scotia, how can they get a hold of you?
Yeah, so you can visit us at remaxnova.com. And you can check out, we've got a pretty decent website there. It'll show you all the different active listings, sale prices, all sorts of different information that you can check out. And we'd love to be able to greet some new Nova Scotians.
We close out our national check on the real estate markets next. Asif, where are we off to?
Tina, we're going to St. John's, Newfoundland, and we've got Nevin Hollett from eXp Realty. Nevin, welcome back to the show.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. I look forward to it every year.
Nevin, taking a look at 2021, we've pretty much had the same sentiment across the country, where it's low inventory, climbing prices. How did Newfoundland fare?
Well, it was a phenomenal year across the entire province. And, we only have one major market, which is the St. John's metro market. And that's what I like to focus on for our data. But in fact, the entire province had an absolutely record-setting year. We've seen so much in-migration with house prices climbing across the country, like I'm sure as you're discussing with everyone across the country. That did push a lot of people out east. I'm sure that's a trend. And, I know New Brunswick and Nova Scotia probably benefited more than us, but we still did benefit. And all areas of the province seen a great uptick in population. And it was actually our first year in 6 years that we didn't have out-migration. We had in-migration. And that was, so that really benefited the real estate market. But in particular, in the St. John's real estate market, we had our best year ever in terms of sales volume. So despite low inventory, the most sales and handedly the most sales ever. In fact, we were up just shy of 40% over 2020. Wow. And as you recall, that was, a great year in real estate. But if I go back to our highest year ever, which was 2008, prior to this year, we had over 12% growth in volume compared to 2008, which was the previous high water mark. So, incredible growth in activity, in sales volume in the St. John's metro region. So, that was great to see. And what's been really nice to see here is the price growth was not as explosive here as it's been in other parts of the country. Pricing was only up just over 7% on the previous year. So it's up, that's benefiting sellers, but it's not moving at such a rapid pace that's putting incredible pressure on buyers. So it's one of those, great markets where it's good for a buyer and it's good for a seller, which is nice to see. A lot of volume, days on market are down, activity's way up, but the prices are not soaring such that buyers are getting priced out of the market. So that was great to see. And what I found really interesting when I started digging into our data on this was that we still haven't reached our highest pricing that we've had in our market. So 2014 was our high price point. And so even with that growth in the great market of 2021, pricing is still 2% lower than it was in 2014. It's almost dollar for dollar what it was in 2013 and 2015, which are our other two, our other highest years, but it hasn't quite reached the top. So, a great year, but not runaway pricing, just a lot of volume, good market to buy, good market to sell. And really, we benefited quite a bit from people either returning to Newfoundland or moving to Newfoundland to take advantage of some value real estate pricing.
And Nevin, what was the average price in the St. John's metro market?
The pricing was in the low 300s. So I think it's about $330. I really like to use price per square foot. We're such an old market. I mean, this city's 500 years old that we don't have like a consistent blend of real estate. I mean, you can have everything from a 250-year-old townhome downtown to a suburban type, cookie cutter home. So I really like to look at price per square foot. I find it always gives us the best data. And we moved our median price per square foot moved up to just under $143 a square foot, whereas last year it was just over $133 a foot.
If you missed any part of our real estate checkup, go to our website, 1059theregion.com, for both last week's and today's shows. When we come back, your real estate questions. This is On the Market on 1059 The Region.
Need to connect with Asif Khan from RE/MAX Prime Properties? Call him 416-985-KHAN. That's 416-985-5426. Or email asif@thehomeshop.ca. Now, back to On the Market on 1059 The Region.
Welcome back to On the Market, York Region's exclusive radio real estate show on 105.9 The Region. Time now for our listener questions. And our first stop is in Thornhill, where Alex asks, do you think rates will rise this year? And will that mean the real estate market will cool? Asif, what do you think?
Well, great question, Alex. And there's been a lot of talk about the rates rising maybe once, twice, three times this year. However, with the recent lockdowns in Ontario, I would really question if they can do that right now. They may do one, they may do two, but it wouldn't be more than that, I don't think. And if the rate hikes are a quarter point at a time, it's not going to affect it much. We don't have any inventory, and that's going to continue to fuel the market regardless of one or two rate increases.
Okay, our next question comes from Frank in King. He writes, last year we witnessed the move by so many to the small towns in Ontario. Do you think this trend will continue in 2022, or will those who left try to get back into the big cities?
Well, with the smaller towns in Ontario, you're going to see more people head there because of affordability. That seems to be where everyone can go and pick up a first-time buyer picking up a home, or people upsizing, downsizing, get more value for their dollar. So we are going to see that. But there has already been a shift back into the city core. So condos are starting to fly, and a lot of the older homes are being bought up by new buyers, and they're renovating them. So it's going to be a little bit of both heading into 2022.
You mentioned affordability, but is it also about availability, that there actually are properties available for sale in those areas?
It sure is. And as the smaller towns appreciate, as the values appreciate, more and more people look at it and say, well, now I have $300,000 or $400,000 equity in here, so it's a great time for me to cash out and buy something else. So there's a lot of that too. It's people realizing that their neighbor's got a lot of money, and they can too.
As a reminder, you can send your questions anytime to info@1059theregion.com. But Asif, if our listeners prefer to contact you directly, how can they do that?
Tina, they can always reach me at 416-985-CON. That's 416-985-5426.
If you missed any part of our show, go to 1059theregion.com or wherever you get your favorite podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, and Audible. I'm Tina Cortez. Thank you for listening.
Need to connect with Asif Khan from RE/MAX Prime Properties? Call him 416-985-KHAN. That's 416-985-5426. Or email asif@thehomeshop.ca.